when you are using Google, what have you kind of found as far as like general rules or ways to kind of target and find audiences that might be interested in solar? Can you talk about like maybe some of the obvious ones, maybe some of the ones that you found that weren't so obvious?
Mhm. I think the approach depends on like just to start off, and this is probably I hope valuable information, but it really depends on like the age of your account. With Google, I think it really matters more than the Facebook side, but newer accounts, you're going to have probably a higher cost per lead for a little bit. The algorithm really needs to learn and season like it actually is a legitimate thing. I've heard people like talk about it, but it like that it doesn't exist. It does. I mean, you do need a little bit of time for some newer accounts. If it's like an untouched market, you can rock with a new account. It's not going to be a problem. But for newer accounts, you do need to give the algorithm a more definitive idea of who to target. So you want to target particular interests, topics. Um, if you do a long, long list of keywords, like, and that's called a custom intent
So what
audience.
interests, what topics? Are you targeting specific solar? Are you targeting solar companies, solar like brand? Like what are your um what are the ones that if someone was going and exploring YouTube that you could
Yeah,
recommend them test out?
the best audience, and like this is something I haven't told anybody, but like one of the best audiences that you can do is it's a custom affinity audience where you're targeting people similar to those that visit sunrun.com. So you can literally go into Google, create an audience, custom audience, where you just type in sunrun.com and it just you're essentially just saying, hey, go find people similar to people that visit this website. It tends to give high cost per lead, but low cost per appointment.
Very good. Yeah, that's one I love those affinity audiences because that's where you're able to I think I mean, you just have so much more ability to kind of find different pockets of people that might like your product compared to Facebook. Like you said, you have to really change up your offer because once you get your demographics nailed down, it's like you can only show it to so many people, or you're gonna show it to the same people over and over and over and over and over again, and that's where you get some of those fun comments that we get on Facebook ads.
No
I
comments.
What was that?
That's another thing I like about YouTube. You rarely get comments now with the new responsive ad setup. You do get comments from time to time, but as long as you're staying on top of it, you can kind of police them. But
And
it's
one of the things
nowhere near.
too that we look at from like the reasons I used to love Google Ads back in the day was people you can target based on what people are searching. And so like I mean this is more Google YouTube, you can do it on YouTube, but if your search term doesn't have enough traffic, it's gonna probably not really work the way you want it to.
Mm-mm.
But what I love about that is like, okay, if someone's typing in like tax how solar tax credit or solar tax questions, you could in theory have your Google ad or YouTube ad if you can figure out a way to get enough volume on search traffic to like be an ad that's specifically talking about like, oh, here's the solar tax information in New York State. And like you can kind of customize your ads more intent based than you would if you were on Facebook. And so that's when you really get to like I see people all the time that are like one of the biggest things that people are doing wrong right now is they have a general ad and they're spreading it to like all these different states and their acquisition cost isn't where it should be and they can't figure out why, and it's because they're not making it local focused. And but on Google you can even do it more than that because you can make it local focused. You could make it gender focused if you notice that for some reason this male in this video really seems to attract the ladies or whatever. And then you can also do it based on that search intent, kind of create more subsets of audiences. I do think that Google has a lot more freedom with that, and it really is it is cool. And that's kind of what you were talking about as far as uh, more customization options and more fun for us nerds to kind of get in there and play around with. But for sure, what is your like? Walk us through what's an ad or an angle of a video ad that has worked for you, and then like what's an angle that you tried and didn't work.
So in terms of angles that work, I feel like there's really two approaches that you can take. It's either you're taking the approach where you're kind of outlining some benefits to solar, and we're trying to frame those in a way that's honestly going to be, I don't want to say slightly clickbaity, but enough to get somebody's attention and maintain it for 5 seconds. I mean, the cool thing about YouTube is you have a few different options when it comes to your hook. A hook just doesn't have to be from the script. It could be a bad camera angle. It could be a shaky camera, selfie style, like moving around. You have a lot of different variables to get somebody's attention. But when it comes to actual hooks, you either want to outline a benefit or you're trying to shed light on somebody's pain. I do think that you will get better results with the latter if you are focused on warmer traffic. Typically, we like to outline some of the benefits of solar to get people hooked, to start that cycle off. So we would talk about incentives for the particular market. That's something that's very important. Also, calling out the market. I mean, that's something that I think you can see that is prevalent in every single YouTube ad. Within the first 5 seconds, you have identified the market. You need to kind of identify your target audience, right? So if you're showing an ad in California and you were to say California homeowners, it's going to resonate a little bit more than if you were to just say homeowners. So just something specific like that, you're able to resonate a little bit more. And then, I mean, the one thing that I just constantly see people on the YouTube side failing to do is having a call to action within the right amount of time. So with YouTube, you're given 30 seconds. Somebody could watch 29 seconds of your ad and hit the skip button, and you don't pay for that impression. It's obviously going to count against you in some way when it comes to, how they're going to place you. But overall, the main thing, I'm sorry, I just got sidetracked. I just got like a message. I need to turn my phone off.
No worries.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. I think call to action in 29 and the
Yeah,
29
so
second span.
just
I
to,
think it is important because something that people don't
you're
realize
not
is
paying for it unless
exactly.
somebody clicks or watches 30 seconds of it. So that's the main thing. Most people are not putting that call to action before the 30-second mark. I'm seeing it sometimes at the tail end of the video. Sometimes I see it, at 45 seconds, which isn't terrible if you have a captivating ad, but there's an analytic that probably most people don't pay attention to within YouTube, and it's what your retention rate is at that 30-second mark. And I bet a lot of people probably don't know what metric or what your high water mark is, your low water mark, what would be a good ad, what would be a bad ad, just based off of that retention. And it saves us a lot of budget when it comes to testing. Just looking at that, like you spend enough money to get 1,000 impressions, you can get an idea of how that ad's going to perform just based off of that retention rate.
Yeah, and if you're paying for every person that views a video and you have a really engaging video that's 3 minutes long and people are watching the entire video but they're not clicking the button, that's just a waste of it's a waste of time. I mean, that's really what it is. Well, I mean, I think that kind of actually gives me another question, which is, so it sounds like you're doing kind of pretty quick call to actions. You're trying to get that call to action hopefully before 29-second mark, so that if they're not interested, they're pressing the skip button before it gets to that point where you're going to pay for it. So my question to you is, 29 seconds isn't really like the long kind of time that you usually think. Like the benefits of YouTube ads is you're able to kind of give people, educate them a little bit more on net metering or whatever it is you're talking about. And if you're doing it before 29 seconds, you're going to get people that are clicking that button probably more into like almost like a Facebook ad where like click here to get more information rather than click here to fill out a form for us.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tested secondary, like more informational video on that next landing page? What does that next landing page look like if you have a really quick call to action?
So, I mean, the nice thing about YouTube is that not everybody's going to click at that first call to action. I think that if your video is under 2 minutes, that's plenty of room to have three call to actions. One, at or around that 30-second mark, one in the middle, and then one at the very end. And then end screens are always nice too, just to literally just tell them what to do. But
People are dumb. Tell them what to do.
You have to, but if they're watching enough, if they're getting to that second call to action, they've gotten a little bit more information. Um, we still run, for the most part, our traffic to just a survey. I've tested landing pages. I have a landing page that I'm working on right now that is actually beating straight to survey, but only on cost per appointment. So it's a weird thing that I'm noticing, but cost per appointment is lower through that funnel. But there's also other variables in that funnel as well.
Hopefully that's just you don't have enough data yet to like. Hopefully it'll
Oh
catch
no,
up,
we've
and you'll find. Oh, really? So it's so cost per appointment is lower with the landing page, but your acquisition cost, so your appointments are having less success with that landing page. That's fascinating to me. I that's the
there's another variable that I am going to keep to myself, but that's further down the funnel. But we've made some adjustments down the road, like page
oh,
two,
see
page
now you
three.
can't do that. Now my mind's now it's gonna bug me until I figure it out, and I want to text you and be like, oh, is it this?
Well,
Is it
that's the nice thing because now you're gonna like try like probably five things that I didn't think of, and you can tell me how they went.
yeah, right. Um, that's one of the things I think that maybe discourages people when they're working with YouTube or YouTube primarily is it is a lot more work. And that's a lot more work to produce a campaign, a lot more work to film a video, a lot more work to edit a video, to figure out what works. And that's kind of why YouTube, like you were talking about with Facebook, Facebook has all kinds of people, YouTube has less people. But that's the reason is because the work that's put involved. And I know personally there's nothing that can be more frustrating than putting the work in, working and like having this like beautiful landing page, like, oh, this is gonna work so much better. And then you try and it just fails miserably. So what is like kind of what have you found like as general rules for landing page? It sounds like you just send them straight to a survey. So I guess what about the survey? Have you found what is there any specific order that you ask questions? Is there any specific questions that you avoid? Is there a specific
Yeah.
number of questions that you find works better or people seem to get tired by? Like, can you give us a little bit more insight on how what you know about surveys and when you get traffic going to them?
The most important thing in terms of just the landing page, because yeah, it's not just a survey. We just don't say, "Hey, are you a homeowner?" and that, like that's the only thing that they see. But like
Surprisingly, it works sometimes.
but there, I do believe that there should be some sort of congruency between what you're saying in the ad and what you have on your landing page. That there should be some similarity in that language. The hooks should have some sort of congruency between your ad and your landing page. Then after that, the survey. I mean, I think anybody that has gotten into marketing should know at this point, especially if anybody just comes from solar with door to door, you never ask the most probing questions up front. Like if you were to get somebody interested in an appointment, you're not gonna like ask somebody right away what their credit score is before you get like some easier information to get out of them. Like you're not gonna start with the hardest question. So you're gonna get a couple easy wins. Okay, cool. Get them committed to hitting that next button. Cool. All right, now we're going to ask you for your email. Now we're going to ask you for your phone. You're going to get better conversion rates with that. So always start with the less probing questions and then go into the more probing questions. And that's the same thing when you're confirming your appointments and calling these leads, whether it's you or a call center. You need to be doing the same type of thing as well. Like I do oversee our call center as well, and we had to do a little bit of training to like kind of get that in place with some of the callers where you had them either not asking the question because they were afraid of asking the question, or they were asking the question at the wrong time, and those two things are killers, especially if this is the first point of contact for your solar company.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for watching this clip from the Solar Growth Show. I greatly appreciate it. While you're here, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, every little thing helps my channel to grow, to help more people, and to make this industry a better place. So I appreciate you watching this, and remember, full clips or all clips and all episodes can be viewed right here on this YouTube channel. And then in addition to that, make sure to check out the Facebook group that we have over on Facebook, Solar Growth, and we get more value over there. So until next time, let's go out there and let's grow.